And now to take our headline story forward tonight, regarding the appointment of the new Bafana head coach, we are joined by respected soccer journalist Velile Mnyandu to help us understand more about the appointment of the coach. Good evening, Velile, and welcome to Sport on the Full View. Velile, my first question for you is that Hugo Broos, we've heard a lot about what he's achieved in Belgium, having won the league there a number of times and also being given the award of Coach of the Year. But let's talk about the work that he's done on the continent and what your opinion is of that work.
Good evening, Vusiwe. But I think when it comes to Hugo Broos, maybe not much that is done in terms of his stints on the continent. But I think one remarkable achievement has to be the 2017 AFCON triumph, winning that AFCON title with Cameroon. And it's got to be said that Cameroon were nowhere near to be favorites for the tournament. And unfortunately for us as Bafana, we were not there. You will recall that we missed out on 2017 after we finished behind Cameroon and Mauritania. So it meant that Cameroon were the team that ended up qualifying to go to that tournament. And with a youthful team missing, I think, about 8 to 9 star players from Europe, Cameroon went on to win their fourth title on the continent. And I think, yes, looking back at that has to be one remarkable achievement from him on the continent.
Now, his time at Cameroon produced almost immediate success, and he did this without the star players of that team, such as your Liverpool's Matip. And surely his success in that team should be a plus for Bafana.
Well, it also depends. It also depends because also if you look at that Cameroonian team, as much as they were without those stars, but also they had some quality players as well. And most of those players were playing in Europe. I think I remember Pasugok was playing in fact, he moved from Spain to play in China at the time. There's also Mukanjo as well, you know. So when you look at the squad that he had, yes, he didn't have the stars, but he still had quite a good bunch of talented players who were based in Europe. And I'm not sure if I can say the same sometimes about our team, because as you know that Bafana is mainly composed of locally based players, and sometimes international experience proves to be another big challenge. But I think judging by how things are going to be done going forward, I think the bulk of Bafana team is going to come from the current under-23 team. And if you look at the junior national teams, you see that we've got a number of players who are playing overseas. And I think from what I understand and from the indication that's there, those are the players that we are looking forward to see in the national team.
Now, you've already touched on this. Now, if we're looking at the Bafana current team and you compare it to, say, for example, your Senegal, who's got your Mane, and your Egypt, who has your Mo Salah, we don't really have the best in the African continent. And now you've just touched on our junior players. Are we actually using them right, those junior players that are coming up in the ranks at the moment?
I think we have bigger challenges compared to some of our counterparts. And one of the bigger challenges that we have is actually a good challenge because unlike in West Africa, our league is one of the strongest leagues on the continent. And through it being one of the strongest, it means that the players now don't have the hunger to go to Europe, you know. Whereas a player from Senegal, a player from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Mali, Burkina Faso, he doesn't even think twice, you know. For instance, we have a situation where Hugo Broos is coming from in Belgium, there's a player who plays at Sundowns. He came back from Belgium and is earning 3 times what he was earning in Belgium here in South Africa, you know. So the motivation to go overseas is not really there. So that hunger is gone. So now we have to develop we have to be very innovative, in terms of taking our players whilst they're still young, very young. You cannot wait until a player is 23 or 24. Otherwise, by that time, the bug of playing in the PSL and earning money here and being comfortable, going to Chisanyama after the game, is already there, being homesick, all those things. So we need to develop a new breed of talented footballers.
Now, Velile, there's something you've touched on there, just talking about there's no desire or hunger for players to move abroad. But surely that can not only be driven by financial gain, because there are better leagues in the world that will pay more than what you would earn, for example, playing in the PSL. And also, if you want to be playing at national team level, then you need to want to be the best amongst the best on the continent and in the world.
Well, I think between me and you, maybe we'll hold that view. But when you look closer to those who are affected by this, you'll be shocked in order to find out. And fortunately, I've been in that situation. Yes, you do have. For instance, I was saying something because there's this phenomenon that's always there when maybe a player from a smaller club wants to move to a bigger club. Here locally, and the smaller club will say no, they're not selling locally, they want to sell overseas. And you look at this club and you check, this team has not sold a single player in the last 5 to 6 years overseas. They talk about overseas, you understand? So
yes.
So there's just a whole lot of things. I know we're here supposed to be talking about a new coach of Bafana, but there are some other critical issues around our game, because we are not just not exporting overseas because we don't have talented footballers. I traveled to South Korea in 2017 with the SA Under-20 Amachita, and there's a player just yesterday from Zambia who was also in the same tournament. He signed for Rangers in Scotland, Glasgow Rangers, where Bongani Zungu was playing. But some of our boys who were attracted by overseas interest, they couldn't move because their clubs were asking for telephone numbers by means of, huge transfer fees.
Okay, Velile, just as I'm wrapping with you, let's go back to speaking about Hugo Broos. Now, who's likely to make up his technical team and his assistants?
Well, I understand that he's bringing his own assistant, one assistant coach, and also he's going to have one local assistant. It's still not clear now who that assistant is going to be. There's been reports that Velile Mnyandu, whom I understand is still under the employ of SAFA, could be that assistant coach, but we'll have to wait and see for the official announcement.
And we've seen the work that Velile Mnyandu has done when he was assisting with the current under-20s and under-23s while he was still the coach of the under-17s. And his work in that regard has been commendable despite what happened in the later parts of him being the Bafana coach.
Yeah, look, the good work that is done with the juniors, unfortunately, I think the expectation was that he would carry in terms of trying to fast track some of the boys that he's been working with in the junior setup at the senior level, but that couldn't happen. But I think not qualifying for the AFCON in Cameroon next year proved to be a big challenge, especially a 24-team AFCON, and for a team that had finished 8th in the last tournament. So to be in the top 8, but not to be in the 24-team AFCON the following tournament, and I think that was the biggest challenge. But I think Coach Mnyandu is one coach who's worked with a number of youthful teams, national youth, junior national teams from under-17. He's been part of the under-20 setup, under-23 as well. So his experience is valuable. And SAFA has invested a lot in him. So if he remains within the national setup, I think that's still a good move.
And on that note, that's how we wrap it up with Velile Mnyandu, respected soccer journalist, just talking us through the appointment of the new Bafana head coach. That's where we'll leave it from the Sports Desk.